This is episode 92 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. On this episode, our guest is Mike Jones of Mike Jones Knife and Tool. Mike's a full-time knife maker and a bladesmith and just an all-around cool and interesting guy. He helped us out lots on the most recent Act Now giveaway, which we appreciate very much. This podcast is brought to you by Kifaru International. Kifaru makes absolutely bomb-proof gear that is second to none. Kifaru.net, folks. There are a few groups in North America that put boots to the ground, like the Wild Sheep Society of BC. Contrary to popular belief, Wild Sheep Society BC isn't just about sheep. The majority of their projects benefit a variety of ungulates and other wildlife. Check them out at www.wildsheepsociety.com. Great folks over there. I'm a Monarch member. You should be too. And as always, go check out our friends over at Just Shooting Arrows. Just Shooting Arrows is BC's premier archery shop.
So, Mike, I tried to build a knife the other day and I broke it in half.
Yeah, you're well on your way then. Perfect.
I'm officially Canada's worst knife maker.
I don't know. There's, man, when I started, it was terrible for about a year. I made a lot of bad knives and, but it was a lot of fun. Did you have any fun?
Yeah. The problem I keep running into, Mike, is getting my holes drilled for my scales.
It seems like the handle material or through the steel itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you definitely want to soften the steel. What are you using for metal?
Well, just whatever I can get my grubby little paws on right now, but it's already pre-tempered stuff. My buddy had given me some old like planer blades.
Oh yeah, those are hard. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, like you need a freaking grenade to put a hole through those freaking things.
You can use end mill, like a carbide mill, end mill bit. That'll go through it pretty good. And they're actually not that expensive. I got some on just from Amazon just to have around because sometimes people change their mind after I've hardened a blade and they want, some different pin or something like that. And I got to put a hole into a handle and they'll work. They even go through like hardened stainless and stuff.
A guy doesn't really want steel that hard anyway, do you? You kind of want to have like a happy medium, like something with some give, but still hold an edge, right?
For sure. Yeah, that's called, you achieve that in a process called tempering, which happens after you harden the blade and then you heat it to a certain temperature and you can bring some of that hardness back down out of the steel. And basically as your hardness comes down, your toughness goes up. And so, for example, on a chef knife, you want it fairly hard because you want it to hold an edge and it's not typically going to take a lot of abuse. Whereas with something like an axe, which is getting beat on, you want that thing to be a lot softer so that it's not going to chip or damage or anything.
Mm-hmm. I tried to drill, take it right where I wanted to drill the holes. I took a torch and I tried to heat to pull some of that temper out.
Yeah.
And then drill it, but that didn't fucking help at all.
Yeah, you can get it up to if you can get it to red hot and then let it cool really slowly. Problem is, especially with that pin in the front of the handle, you don't want that heat moving into the blade. You can if you can suspend the blade in water and just heat the handle, that'll work. But you got to kind of jig it up and down a little because you don't want a hard line where that temper changes because that's a really weak point. So that gets kind of finicky too.
Maybe that's where I fucked up because that's what I did. I took a pair of vice grips, put them across the blade, put it in an old coffee can, filled the coffee can full of water, and then I just heated them spots so I wasn't pulling temper out of the actual blade. But I was just blasting that one spot, right? And it was just cherry red. Okay. I should have maybe brought it, like you said, I should have maybe brought it up so it wasn't.
Yeah, so it's tricky when you're working with steel that you just found. You don't necessarily know what it is. It could even be a stainless, and that all reacts totally different too. So it's tricky when you're working with stuff like those planer blades. They hold an edge really great once you get it there. But those ones they're a tough one to work with. see if you can find like those big round saw blades from a mill or something, like a trimmer blade or something like that. And they work a little bit better. They're a little easier to work with.
I'm playing with,
I got an old rasp right now I'm going to start fucking with.
Yeah, those are super popular. People like to leave that texture in the blade and everything. The really old ones were good. The newer ones are can be a steel called case hardening steel, which only when they harden it, it only really affects like the very outer little bit of it. There's a lot to it, man. Especially like when I got into this, I had no idea. You got to be like a amateur scientist, metallurgist to know what's going on inside of there.
So what's your kind of go-to steel? Are you S30V or Damascus, or what are you using?
I use a lot of like old sawmill blades, because up here in the middle of BC, there's a lot of that around, and
super cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's got like a little bit of history to it, and people kind of like that. And if you get like a really old one that's been kind of weathered, sometimes you get a little bit of like character in the steel, like some pitting or something like that, which is kind of nice to leave in there. You're kind of rolling the dice a little bit, not knowing exactly what it is, but at this point I kind of can, there's a good chance it's one of a handful of blades or steels. And so I'll take a chunk and sort of test it and make sure I can harden it and that sort of thing. But other than that, like my stainless, I order a specific type of stainless because it's such a complex alloy that you really got to know what's in your stainless. And then for Damascus, that stuff's all pretty well-known steels that I use for that stuff. But
so you're pretty hands-on from start to finish with all your blades, eh? Everything.
Yeah,
done in-house.
Like 90%, 95% of them they start out as raw materials and leave here as a finished product.
Awesome. I like that.
How'd you get into knife building, Mike?
I've always been into building stuff with my hands. When I was a kid, I used to like steal a bunch of my dad's offcuts of wood and try to build stuff with them and take things apart and get in trouble for it. And so I've always been kind of like hands-on and always trying to build stuff. And knives just seem like such a perfect project, because I mean, it doesn't take like 6 months or something to do. You can build a knife in a relatively short time inside of my own what do you call it? It's too early in the morning. I can't think of words right now. But yes. And they're not like it's not like you don't need space to like work on an old car or something. It's a nice small thing. And so, basically, it sort of popped into my mind making a knife, and I watched a YouTube video. And back then there was like, I don't know, 3 watchable YouTube videos on how to make a knife. And of course now there's thousands of them, but it was here's how you kind of do it. So I took that and kind of made a lot of big mistakes, learned a lot of really hard lessons along the way. And I pretty much made every mistake. Like you're talking about breaking blades, trying to drill holes in them and breaking off drill bits and getting them stuck in blades and, snapping blades in half, trying to straighten them. The whole deal. I've made every mistake you can think of.
So you've been watching me work, Mike.
Yeah, it's been a long, hard. It's funny too. When I started out, I'd already been through a couple other sort of hobbies and kind of knew the road. And I remember having the thought of, okay, I got a lot of hard lessons. I got a lot of mistakes to make in this little journey of mine. And yes, I knew it getting in. And sure enough, yeah, it sucks, man. I've had tears in my eyes, snapping a blade in half right when it's finished, something that I've worked on for like a week, and that happens.
So yeah. I think that's part of to becoming successful, though, right? The trials and tribulations of developing a skill.
Yeah, it's as long as you only make the same mistake once, I guess. Make sure you learn from it. But I think it's the best. I mean, you know why not to do a lot of things at that point. I mean, you can learn so much by reading books and watching videos and just hearing people tell you what to do and what not to do. But until you actually do it, then it just, those things kind of become second nature, I guess, knowing what to avoid to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, the biggest thing is with knowing your steels and tempers and all that shit, right?
That's a big one. I mean, I'm not really kidding when I say you got to be kind of an amateur metallurgist. There's so much in the world of steel, even just in just a fraction of metallurgy that involves knife making. But it's really interesting. Some guys get deep into that rabbit hole and just really fine tuning all of their whole process and everything, which is awesome. And I mean, I like to say I know enough to do what I have done, and even then, just barely.
There you go. A lot of people go like you're saying, right down the metal rabbit hole. It seems like there's a lot of like new wild alloys that guys are all about, eh?
There's some super steels out there. You see these videos of guys doing these chopping competitions, and those things are all made of, I mean, the steel in those knives is $300-$400 alone before they even touch it. Or folding knives. Those guys like to geek out super hard, and they will be the first to tell you that your knife is a piece of garbage because it's not made out of one of 3 different incredible super steels or something. And it's amazing what the industry has grown into, especially of course since like the forged and fire stuff has really made things blow up, which has been great for the industry. And all those, steel makers there's a market for them now, so they have that room to kind of innovate, and then people will buy that stuff, which is awesome. But it all gets more and more complicated the more complicated the steel gets.
Guys like custom blades, hey, and custom guns, custom bows, anything custom.
Yeah, I think that whole thing is kind of coming back. Like, we went through a whole phase there of kind of like the throwaway society where,
Mm-hmm.
you remember seeing those advertisements for razors where it's like, you just use it until it's dull and throw it away and, just pick up a new one. That whole buying things at Costco and it's the cheapest you can get, or IKEA, cheapest furniture you can find. And once it breaks, well, whatever, toss it out, buy a new one kind of thing. And I think everything's a pendulum. And I think it's swinging back where people are really appreciating handmade stuff like furniture or, handmade boots, or like you say, a custom bow or gun, where you see people are developing that appreciation again for something that someone actually put some time and love into.
Man, that IKEA is the best way to get a divorce. Just as a sidebar here.
I'll tell you, as long as she reads the directions that I run the tools, we're good. I don't want to look at that I don't want to look at that fucking book ever.
Dude,
that is a relationship test right there.
Right? You walk through that place and you need therapy by the time you get the hell out of there. It's insanity.
It's amazing that but it works, I guess.
If they didn't have weird meatballs and hot dogs, like they should ban that place.
Yeah, they gotta make everybody comfortable.
No, but it's cool, man. You can tell you put a lot of heart and soul into each one of your blades, and you have some pretty innovative designs and unique designs, and you do a lot of cool stuff. And I mean, I think the first blade I saw of yours was actually like you call it the bushfucker.
Yep.
I love the sound of the bushfucker.
Oh yeah, my buddy Sky sent it to me. I can't remember how you and I met. I think one of us messaged each other, anyways. But my buddy Sky, he's like a hardcore knife. Wasey's a knife guy too, but Sky's like Sky knows all the knife builders, right? And I sent him a photo of one of your knives. He's like, "Oh yeah, check out the bushfucker," and he sends me this thing, and it's like, what's the story behind that?
That one was, that one kind of was just born of necessity. We have, but my buddies bought this big property that had been clear cut years and years ago, and then it all kind of grown in, and all the roads and everything we're growing in. So we're going in and trying to just kind of clear out trails and stuff. And it was all just like aspen and like alder, cottonwood saplings, like just the worst crap to be cutting through. And so we had chainsaws, but they're ridiculous to try and clear that stuff with. And then we had machetes, which are nice because they have a long blade, but they're really thin and flimsy and you end up hacking away forever. And then we had axes, which are nice because they're heavy and they'll go through stuff, but it's got such a small blade. The bit on an axe is like 3 inches if you're lucky. So I had this big thick bar. I make them out of these processor bars, which are the cutting head on one of those big logging machines, and it's a 1/4 inch thick, and they're really good steel too. And so I just kind of came up with this design. I looked into, there used to be like brush hooks and all these sort of designs that were similar to that had that sort of hooked shape. And so I kind of took that, and then I took like an axe handle shape and sort of blended them together. And I came up with this tool that was really heavy, especially like it was loaded on the blade end. So it was really heavy out there, nice and thick with a long cutting edge. And I took it out to the property, and the thing just worked so good, limbing trees and clearing all this brush, and it worked awesome. And then as soon as I started posting photos of it, people were pretty stoked on it. So I refined the shape a little bit. I still have the original one. It sits in the back seat of my pickup. But
nice.
Yeah, they kind of toned it, and yeah, they're awesome. They're super fun to own. And then I came up with a smaller one because a buddy of mine, he wanted to take it trail building for mountain bike trails. And so it had to be something he could throw in his backpack, and it couldn't be like the big one's 1.5 kilograms total weight. And so it's a lot to carry around all day. So the smaller one's under 1 kg, and it's a little more wieldy.
That looks like it'd be perfect for something like on a trap line with a skidoo, because you're always kind of cutting bait for marten boxes and stuff.
Yep, I got a buddy who's a trapper, and he takes his out on his trap line all the time and uses it. And exactly what you're saying.
I had a little machete I was using, and I would lob off a piece of bait for marten or whatever. And I freaking ended up lobbing off my thumb, and so I had to stop the bleeding, and then I finished trapping that day. But that thing looks a little safer than a machete, yeah, for sure.
It can be. Cool. I don't know. If you could definitely glance off a log and take out a kneecap or something.
Yeah. Keep your fingers tucked in.
They could definitely do some damage if you weren't watching.
That's awesome. So like the majority of your biz is like the custom order thing, hey?
Yeah. I like custom orders. They're a little bit of a love-hate, but they're it's nice to work with people. Some of my most popular knives now were originally like a custom idea that somebody had. So working with customers has always been beneficial like that. And it's fun making up something, especially if someone comes to you with like some totally unique, weird thing that they want, and then being able to build that into turning their idea, their imagination into an actual physical thing and having them stoked on it that's really fun to do too. So, yeah, I've got a good little list of customers waiting on some knives right now, which is really nice. And it's cool to have that kind of support.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're just constantly doing wild new stuff and chipping away.
Trying to, yeah. That's kind of that was the balance that I had to find. Like once I got really fortunate enough to actually have a list of people who were willing to wait for me to build them something, it got to the point where I was really lucky in that I was never really catching up. It was always, people were ordering them faster than I could build them. And I was always kind of like, okay, I'll get through these, finish up these orders. And then I had these ideas that I wanted to try, or just new stuff that I wanted to do. And I was never getting to them. And so I had to start basically blocking out my time where I would book a certain amount in a month and then start booking the next month kind of thing, to sort of leave myself like a week or so at the end of that month to do some of that sort of thing. Because it can get That's the thing. It can get kind of monotonous too. Like if people are just ordering the same sorts of things that you've already made, because most of the time people are like, oh, I really like that one. Can you build me another one? And it's like, yeah, sweet, for sure. But you end up just making the same things over and over again. You got to I had to figure out how to balance that out a little bit so I can still do kind of my own thing too.
That's awesome. And, you have a little bit of a production line going now.
Started to, so the custom stuff, I think I got out of the price range for a lot of people. And it's also difficult for, say, like a retailer to carry custom made stuff because they're all totally different and your price point's never exactly the same. And I've got a couple of local stores who are really cool and helping me out and carrying a couple of things. And it was just tough for them too, to try and carry custom, unique kind of one-off sort of stuff. And so I tried to come up with a line that was a little more out of my hands so that I could bring that price point down a little bit. So I outsourced a lot of the production of it, a lot of the grunt work. And then I end up doing all the finishing. So the grinding the bevels, gluing on the handles and shaping, finishing the handles up and everything. And then I outsourced a Kydex sheath to a company on the island that does a beautiful Kydex work. And so I ended up coming up with this MJ line of 3 different sizes of like outdoor hunting style knives that are a little bit, definitely a little more price point, not down into the Canadian Tire Chinese junk, but they're still they're an excellent quality blade, and they're all they're based off of my most popular hunting knives. So they're basically the same thing. It's just I outsource a little bit of that so that I can make it a little more accessible for people.
That's cool. What do those MJ knives cost?
The MJ1 is the smallest, and it is $315 Canadian. MJ2 is right in the middle, and it's $325. And those two are both made out of 1/8 inch thick steel. And then the MJ3, the bigger one, is 3/16 inch steel, a little bit heavier, and that one is $375, I believe.
And the knife that we're giving away,
and that's for stainless steel too. I made the first run of those in stainless. Wicked.
And the MJ3 that we're giving away is actually the prototype for that line that you built, hey?
That's right. Yeah. So I did a run of prototypes just to kind of get a feel for them and see what kind of I had no idea. Like, it's a totally different animal doing this production stuff and relying on people to do some of the work for you and come through with timing and everything. And so I had to do just a quick run of them just to kind of get the idea how that was all going to work out. And if even pricing was I had no idea what the price was going to end up being on them. So I made the first one of each out of 1084 high carbon steel, which is what that one is. And they're all got a black canvas micarta handle. And like I said, that Kydex sheath. And that's the one that we're doing this giveaway for. And it's it's a super awesome knife. A lot of people prefer a carbon steel over stainless, and we can go way down the rabbit hole on that too if you want.
I got it right here.
Oh, good.
I'm trying not to cut a finger off.
Yeah, don't wreck it. We got to give that to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might, like, people that listen to this, they might like it if I lob a finger off and they get a knife that's been used a bit.
It's got a blood stain on it.
I might eat my breakfast with it here. We'll see. That's wicked though, man. Thanks so much for donating this knife here into our giveaway, and
absolutely. I love supporting, especially like something that's so local and close to home. And it's a good cause. We gotta stand up for ourselves on this one. We lost out on the grizzly bear. We need to, you can speak a lot more to the cause than I can, but it's something that I'm definitely can get behind.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if we actually mentioned it. You're a BC boy. You're up in Quesnel.
Yep. Right in the middle of British Columbia up here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So when and how did you get into hunting? Because you didn't grow up being a hunter, right?
No, I didn't grow up with any of. I grew up in Ontario, in a town of about 80,000 people, and my parents were always like, we were outdoorsy. We had what we call a cottage in Ontario, on a lake. I'm into fishing and just being in the woods and everything. But my parents were never really into firearms or hunting or any of that kind of stuff. We didn't even keep the fish that we caught because it was too much work cleaning them and stuff, throwing back. So I didn't even get into firearms until not that long ago. So that's a whole different world, trying to learn all of that sort of stuff. And I can't believe there's like 8,000 calibers, and it's crazy that people can just rhyme off all these numbers at you and know exactly what they're talking about. And it's all Spanish to me. So I've been kind of trying to learn that sort of stuff. And because of where I live too, you could easily be a cougar walking through my backyard at some point, and I need to be able to take care of that. And I just last fall actually went out. I went hunting. I wouldn't call myself a hunter, but I've hunted. But we went out with just my buddy and I, and he'd only been out once before. He went out with a friend of ours who's a guide, and within, I think he said like 40 minutes, they had a deer on the ground, processed, and like walking out with it. And he was like, cool, this is hunting, eh? Sweet. So then we went out this year, or sorry, in the fall, and we went out 4 or 5 times. I think we saw 2 does the whole time we were out. Like we got super skunked because we had no idea what we were doing, but it was so much fun just being out, getting up early, going out when there's like just a little bit of snow, fresh snow on the ground, and trying to figure out how to track animals, and just trying to kind of learn what they're doing and their habits and where we should be and when, and all of this kind of stuff. It was fun being out there. It kind of, like everyone says, it sort of unlocks that primal sort of thing inside of you that's in there that you wouldn't know otherwise. And so I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
Yeah, I think me and Wasey will both say there's nothing that we like more than hunting. Hey, Wace? Oh,
yeah, man. No, that's our go-to.
I think you're starting to dive down the rabbit hole too with some of the stuff you messaged me. Hey, Mike, you're like, hey, I'm getting into reloading. Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing that. Like building benches, all kinds of shit.
That's the problem with wintertime up here, is I start to look into all these new hobbies that I'm never going to have time for, and come springtime. But I go deep into stuff, and I like gadgets and all these. It's bad. All my hobbies are super expensive. So yeah, I'm actually looking over my laptop right now. I got the whole reloading bench all set up, and I'm just waiting on my powder measure to show up, and then I can start doing that. And because I want to get really comfortable with my rifle, and I'm not right now. And so I figure the best way to do that is just shoot a lot. And I've got a bit of a property here, and there's a pond down a hill, and previous owners actually have a board set up where they had targets and they were shooting down there. So I can go and just in my backyard literally and shoot a lot. So I wanted to be able to just reload my own ammo, because it's been a little bit shy trying to find ammo these days. Yeah. So I just want to be able to, I don't want to like every shot be like, oh, there goes another one. You can't get back. Yeah. I get deep into hobbies, and I start getting into them, and I'm waiting on a bow. I ordered a bow that's coming, so that's going to be a whole new thing.
I know. The archery questions you've been asking me are just like, they're amazing. They're like, you're looking at like graduate level bow hunting questions before the bows arrived. I love it.
No, that's the problem with YouTube, man. I can watch John Dudley teach me every aspect there is. I feel like I'm a professional before I've even lifted a bow.
That's awesome.
What bow did you order?
I've got an Elite Terrain coming, the new Terrain by Elite. It's, I guess, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Elites are fine. I've actually never shot an Elite. That's one of the few bows I've never shot. I don't know if there's a ton of support for Elite in BC, but yeah.
I don't know. I hope so.
Hopefully they've been around a while. Yeah.
I hope I don't break it.
I don't think you will. You'll be fine. I think it's pretty hard to pick a bad modern bow.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Just like everything else, like snowmobiles and trucks, everybody's got their own thing, but they're all basically good as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm kind of into that. For everyone talks about the kind of the meditative part of shooting a bow, which is really attractive to me. I like that kind of clear your mind, focus on one thing, which is so difficult to do these days. So I'm looking forward to just doing that, just kind of shooting at targets in my yard here.
Yeah, it can definitely be a good way to calm your mind. But Wasey also has a video of me pitching a bow at the earth. So, you know.
Yeah, I can see that too. I used to play golf, so I know what you're talking about.
Oh no, not golf. Yeah, no, it's good stuff, man. You'll dive down that rabbit hole and it'll be a whole nother thing. You'll kind of forget about guns for a while and probably end up with a giant backlog of knives and stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be the issue once spring arrives here and all that sort of stuff kicks off. I've already started, like I built that shooting table so I'm excited to set that thing up and try that. And then my target actually showed up yesterday. Oh, so yeah. It's all ready to rock. But as soon as spring shows up, it's going to be, oh yeah, I should probably build a knife once in a while and pay for my house.
Yeah, for sure. What's your big popular knife? Like what's the go-to model that guys seem to regularly get after?
Can I guess or what?
Yeah, please do.
What it is? I'm going to say it's either one or two. It's either going to be the Badger or the Bow Hunter.
Yeah, those are two definitely of my most popular ones. The Bow Hunter for sure is tops the list. It's just such a good just general purpose all around hunting, camping, outdoor. You know, people cook with it. It just kind of does everything. It's got that heft being a little bit thicker steel. You can chop kindling with it, but it's got like a fine enough edge that you can do some really precision work. I've got buddies that clean animals with that thing and they'll go through a whole bear, including trimming out the mask and the paws and everything on it. No problem with the fine edge on it. And so that Bow Hunter is definitely the first one that I built was for Mr. Rogan too, which is why I called it the Bow Hunter. And it's been super popular ever since. And that's what that MJ3 that we're giving away is based on. It's basically exactly a Bow Hunter.
I forgot Joe Rogan uses your knives. He's actually said on his podcast he uses Mike Jones knives.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard him mention that once, maybe twice. He's posted a couple of photos of the chef knives that he's been using. I don't know if he actually uses my hunting knives or not. He's got one or two of them. It's hard to say. Those guys get people are so particular. Like a lot of guys like those Havalons and the replaceable blade ones and everything, which is hard to argue with. Everyone's got their system that they're locked into. Like hunters seem to be kind of those kind of people. They get one thing, like you're talking to the old timers around here, and they won't shoot anything but a 30-06 because that's what they've hunted with for the last 80 years. You know, people get stuck in their ways, and it's hard to argue. But hopefully, he uses them.
Yeah. So that's I wanted to ask, the Bow Hunter was made just like you had already been making that kind of like prototypes of that, and then Joe wanted one or what? And that's how I was going to ask like where that came from, but you kind of told that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that he came up here one year, a long time ago, and hunted with a guide around here named Mike Hawkridge, and Mike put him on this huge moose. And Joe actually there's a photo of him on the cover of Peterson's hunting magazine holding this quarter, the massive moose quarter. And I guess he's like only 5'8" or something like that. So it looks extra massive on his shoulder.
Hey, only 5'8", you son of a bitch.
Well, compared to a moose.
I'm just kidding.
But, hey, Cam's short too, and he's a good hunter, right?
God damn it, with the short word again. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But he so there was a lot of back and forth between Joe and Mike, and Mike wanted to get him a cool gift to remember the trip by and everything, and he ended up hitting me up just super random, cold called me in fact, he didn't even know that I lived 45 minutes from him. He was just trying to find somebody in BC to build a knife. And so I came up with that design that was just straight up brand new. I'd never drawn that one out before, and then want to just come up with a really good stock, good size 5-inch. It's a 5-inch blade. So it's just a nice size for a hunting knife to carry on your hip, and came up with that one for it, and it worked out really good.
Yeah. Wicked.
That's so awesome, man. So what's like the driving innovation for you? Like what are you working towards? I kind of feel like all of kind of the craftsmen inside their different industry have like something that's always kind of burning in their mind that they want to get done.
Like a 5-year plan kind of thing?
No, just like what's a knife project that you're dying to do?
I'd really like to get into building folding knives. It's one that I've wanted to. I actually made one like way long ago, my first year, and it turned out really, really bad. And like most of what I was building at the time, but that's one of those things where I just consciously made the decision to wait until I had better equipment and a lot more patience, because those things they're so finicky and fine. And but it'd be cool to get into something like that. It's a little like a folding knife, something that you can throw in your pocket and carry around.
Yeah, nice folder's always handy, eh? Have that sucker in your pocket.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different. People can look at you a little funny, walk around downtown Vancouver with a 5-inch Bowie hanging off your hip.
Yeah, this bow hunter style knife is MJ3. That's a substantial blade, eh?
It is, especially if you're like, I know you guys are in the kind of lightweight crowd where you're hiking in 20K up into the mountains and you're trying to save every gram. So I know you took it on your sheep hunt, and that was probably a little bit excessive. Sorry, the goat hunt. Yeah. No, it was a bit heavy.
Yeah. But the thing with it, there's certain things you can maybe save weight on. Like a good knife for me, I'll never skimp.
That's the thing.
Ever.
Yeah.
Just because a knife will pull your ass out of so many jackpots. And if you just got like a little razor blade knife, you're kind of fucked, to be honest. It's only good for skinning. And if you ever needed a knife to do actual work, you'd be screwed. So, I've had a guy say to me one time, he's like, well, if there's 3 of you going, you only need one knife because that's all you need for skinning. I'm like, the fuck I am. I am not that worried about weight that I'm going to not bring a knife.
Yeah.
A good blade will get.
It kind of feels like the industry's gone into such a high tech sort of direction. Like you got all this like incredible outerwear, and these rifles that weigh 7 pounds and can reach out to 2,000 meters. It's amazing. Like what the tech that's gone in. But you look back at when the old timers used to go out, that was one of their tools that they would literally have out of their sheath and in their hand a good amount of time. Like it's a important tool that they would rely on, and they knew how to use it for a lot of things that you would just, anything you had to do, like you're saying, cutting bait or building traps or, making a fire, splitting up some wood to make yourself a fire. You're not doing that with a little razor blade. So it was definitely just part of the kit, having a good, solid, proper tool that you could depend on.
I wanted to kind of ask you about sheaths too, because one of the problems I've been running into that's been driving me absolutely nuts is I like to carry a good fixed blade, like a bow hunter or a badger or something like that. And because I'm always got my pack on, and I have like all my sheaths, I get custom sheaths made for all my knives. So I'm always scout carry kind of style on my hip.
Yep.
And I can't do it with the pack because it's just that pack's riding on that blade. So I wanted to try and come up with something that a guy could have some sort of carry, maybe even on your pack, like have it detachable so you can clip it to your pack or clip it to your belt.
Tyler's got it in his hand right now.
Is it?
Yeah, I do.
So we came up with this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Precision Optics.
Yeah, Omar.
Omar. So
Yeah,
he's here in Quesnel too, and so I've been working with him a little bit on this design. And he said the same thing. You guys who go packing out in the middle of nowhere with these heavy packs on often don't wear a belt because it gets in the way of your hip straps for your backpack. And so he said, you can't, like, where am I going to carry a knife? I don't have a belt to hang a sheath off of or whatever. So we started looking at packs and we noticed that most of the hip straps have like a molly webbing on them. And it's right where, you would normally hang a knife off of a belt loop. And so we came up with this sheath design that's on a dangler, which means that the sheath and the attachment for where it would hook onto your belt is a little bit separate. It's got an articulation to it, so it'll move and swing around. And then on the loop that would normally go on a belt, we put a molly clip or a molly lock. And so that'll actually attach to your hip strap on the molly straps on the hip, and then dangle from there. And then you can either, tie a string around your leg or whatever to go Rambo style if it's like that big of a knife or something like that. But then it's right where you need it, and it doesn't get in the way of your setup at all. The other option again is to run that same sort of sheath, that Kydex sheath, which has that kind of snap lock in. You hear as Ty's playing with it, it's got that click as he's pulling it in and out of the sheath. And then, so that locks it in there. Yeah, that click, that hard click, that's locking it in there. So if you tried to shake that sheath off right now, it's not going to come off because it's kind of locked on. So you can mount that inverted on your shoulder strap, which or your shoulder pack strap. And so a lot of guys will run it that way, which is again a little bit kind of commando tactical style. Or another thing that I've seen people do recently, and I've actually built a couple of custom sheaths to make this happen, is people will rock it horizontal on their bino straps right above their bino harness. And so they'll put the belt loop around one of the straps, and then the other end, I've actually built like a sheath that has a second belt loop on the bottom end of the sheath that'll go around the other bino harness. And that works really cool because then it's right there. It's on your chest and easy to get to, but it's kind of doesn't get really in the way either. It's not, you don't want to have a huge knife there, but that works too.
Wasey's all about mounting stuff all over his bino harness. It's like sort of one of his call signs,
He's just cut 15 pieces of flare on there.
Yeah, exactly. He always gets.
I'd actually like to figure out. I'd like to figure out how to strap more shit to my chest.
He's always talking shit on people's chest rings on Instagram and stuff. I bet you, not every day, but every other day, he sends me something. He's like, look at this. It's all he's cranky. Cam said he was cranky. I think he's maybe onto something.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, it's everyone's got their own ways of getting their idea across.
Cranky dog.
So yeah.
No, man, that's cool. Yeah, the carry system you've come up with works really great.
Yeah, and that one too, because it's a long blade, and when we made that dangler really long, so it hangs down pretty far, because you don't need to be like get your elbow way up in the air trying to get this thing off of your hip, so it hangs down kind of far, which is nice. But it can kind of get a little bit floppy as you're hiking through the bush or whatever. So you could do like a paracord around your leg kind of thing, which I thought was. It'll work, but in my mind, it was just like, okay, if every time you take your pack off, this is another thing that you have to deal with. And so I've been trying to come up with some idea, a different way to have that bottom end of the sheath attached to your leg. There's an outdoor, an outerwear company that I hear might be coming up with a system for that, where they might throw a molly patch down the outside of the leg, so you can strap like a little pouch to it or whatever. And so in that case, you could put one of those molly locks on the back side of the sheath and then click that into that molly strap, which would work really well. Or I was trying to come up with I've got a design for a magnet where you would click a magnet onto that molly strap on the leg and then have a magnet in the back of the sheath. And then that would just automatically attach, which would be nice, because then, you got to toss your pack off. It'll just instantly come off on its own, or if you're going through some thick brush and something gets between your leg and the sheath, it'll just pop off and then probably land right back on the magnet again instead of getting all hung up and tangled and become an issue.
One thing I like about them Kydex sheaths, because, you know, I've been running leather sheaths forever, like most guys, but the problem I always found with leather is that if you're out hunting in the rain all day, them things kind of lose shape and they don't lock as good. And
yeah, that's
so
true. Especially if you don't have a retention strap around it that holds the knife in. If it's just one of those kind of molded ones, that can definitely loosen up a little bit. My sheaths, I treat them all with a wax on the inside and the outside to try and keep some of that weather off of them. But I mean, there's only so much you can do if you're out for 12 hours in the rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of that Kydex because it's hard to wreck that shit, and it holds tight too.
Yeah, it's a good material for sure. You get the purists and stuff that have always had the leather sheath and they like that, and they don't want to have a lot of plastic on them or whatever. Maybe they feel like they're trying to be a commando with that click in, click out kind of thing, but it works really good.
Tyler is definitely trying to be a commando.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm just going commando and it's causing me chafing issues. That's what's happening. I'm not trying to be a commando. I'm just an idiot.
It's a Kydex underwear.
Have you got your bow yet, Mike, or what?
I'm waiting on it. I ordered it from the shop in Vanderhoof called Three Brothers Archery Supplies, and he said it was going to be in before the end of this month. I hope. It's been the longest month of my life so far waiting on this thing.
Oh, are you going to be able to get out for some spring bear hunting? Probably, eh?
With a bow?
Well, with your gun or whatever.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Hunting's still really fresh for me. So I've still got all those moral dilemmas of pulling the trigger on an animal. And of course, bears are a little bit different too. And I know all the logical reasons not to, not to feel that way, but there's still that about it.
Oh yeah, I lost all my morals when I was like 8 or 9.
Yeah,
not even to do with hunting, just in general.
I wasn't that lucky.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, bears definitely strike a certain chord with people, eh?
Well, they're Winnie the Pooh. They're cuddly and everything. I mean, that's what the NDP leaned on hard when they canceled all the grizzly hunting and got themselves elected on that platform. Was these assholes are out here trophy hunting these beautiful cuddly animals and they're endangered or something. Ridiculous.
Yeah. I remember when that all went down. They're like, at first they're like, oh well, we're going to make it so you can't take the hide. You have to leave the hide and the head behind. You can only take the meat of the grizzly bear. And then like 2 weeks later, they're like, you can't take none of the fucking bear. No. Now you can't even hunt the bear. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on in BC?
It was so backwards. Yeah. And there's no science behind any of it. It's ridiculous, but it seems to be, I mean, it was almost like they were ahead of the curve the way things are going. Just no logic behind any of it, just all political, and it's not good.
Pretty scary stuff. It's kind of what we're going through right now a little bit too, with this moose and caribou situation, with none of it being grounded in science and all of it being grounded in politicking and money changing hands. And last year they were trying to promote hunting cow and calf moose, like because they were out eating the caribou in their habit or some bullshit like that. Like, just, I don't know if a moose has ever met a caribou. They don't live or eat in the same places. So they're trying to get, I don't know if you guys heard about that down there, but up here they were trying to promote hunting the cows and calf. And luckily, it was a proud moment to be an outdoorsman of any kind. But I think a lot of those tags were purchased by hunters and never even, never filled, or they never had any intention of filling them, which was really cool to see.
It's crazy the logic that these guys come up with. It was the same thing here in Alberta a handful of years ago. We had a major wolf problem. We still have a wolf issue, but their solution was let's, in an area that can sustain maybe 150 moose tags, let's give out 1,500 moose tags. Let's get rid of the moose and the wolves will move on. That's literally what the fucking solution to the problem was. Not kill the wolves, not do predator management, but let's kill off all the moose so the wolves will move out of the area.
It's so backwards. Like, you try and wrap your head around the logic to it, and you end up driving yourself crazy because it's not designed to work that way. The logic was never involved.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me handpick a couple guys. Give us a budget. If you're the government so worried about it, give us a little bit of a budget.
And you're only talking like $50 or $60, eh? For you and the boys to go and handle the wolf problem.
Just a flat of beer.
Like,
that's all
we'll get rid of the wolves and you can keep your moose. And then the thing that blows my mind is that they're still giving out, they've cut the tags back, but they're still giving out like 500-600 tags in an area that maybe 20 bulls get pulled out of one of the zones.
That's wild.
And they hand out 500 plus tags. I'm like, fucking.
That situation in BC was actually, it was a pretty complicated situation. Like, I personally don't believe in cow and calf harvest. Rather, I don't think I'll ever kill a cow or a calf. It just doesn't do anything for me. I also don't think I'd be shooting immature bulls, but that's just because personally it doesn't resonate with me, you know. And I'm not in a situation where I have to feed my family with that meat. If I did, it would be a different story, probably. But like that cow calf thing, I actually talked to a couple of the regional biologists about it, and they had like a case worked out to support that, the cow and calf thing. So like, I mean, I can't discredit a biologist that does it for a living and they're part of it. But I personally, like, my personal beliefs, I don't think lined up with their scientific rationale. I think there's probably another route they could have taken, right?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that they actually had some science behind. I'm sure there's some way that they can justify it for sure.
Yeah, you could probably look it up. And like, those cow and calf seasons are still in place. Like, there's still we'll see what happens here in the next month. But that cow and calf season was in place last year. You could apply for it even. So.
Yeah, there's a big campaign going on around up here that's the save the cow moose thing.
Oh yeah, we have that down here. The same signs.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like there's enough.
What's the point of this? So like,
I don't know, dude. It's stupid.
Like, BC is this like. This fucking ripping hits off bongs and throwing darts at like, yeah, let's get rid of fucking cow moose.
I honestly think what it is, and this is like completely off the hip. And like, again, I'm not here to argue with biologists. That's not my job. I'm not, and it's really easy to be an armchair quarterback. But I think BC has, three like kind of major factors here. Like, the first factor, which is the most important, is the actual science behind this stuff. Like, what's best? What's the best way to manage wildlife here, right? The second thing is the heavy duty kind of majority liberal population that all lives in the Lower Mainland, right? So like, you know, I can't remember the exact stat, but 90% of the population lives in the Lower Mainland, in the metropolitan area, and it's
probably never seen a deer before.
Totally right, and it's very very liberal leaning, and you know, a lot of the policy in BC gets made down there, right?
I'd say all of it, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then the third component is we have a very complicated, complex sort of environment between First Nations and the government. Not so much. I would never say that the conflict is First Nations versus resident hunters, because I don't think it is. I think the conflict there is between First Nations folks and the government. And so when you look at these sometimes some of these wild regulation changes that we see. Not this one that we're currently dealing with right now, but often you see these things. And I personally, my personal belief is that they're hamstrung with what they can do. Where, you know, if you're trying to deal with a wolf population and the call option is just off the table, okay, now what do we do, right? We have to do something. What do we do? And I think sometimes these bios, I think they get hamstrung by those three things, you know, like the political disadvantage and then all of these other disadvantages they're dealing with. And I think they still need to try their best to manage stuff, right? But I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
Follow the money, right?
Yep.
Follow the money. It usually tells you what the fuck is going on.
Well, that's just it, right? And I think like a lot of the biologists that I talk to, I have this great opportunity to talk to all these people because of the podcast, and I get to, like, I always say it on here, Mike. I say it all the time, right? Like, this podcast is very selfish. I just have people that I want to learn about on here, and hopefully people want to listen along, right? And then the other half of the time is just me and Wasey being idiots. But when I get to talk to these biologists, and like I often leave those conversations feeling like those biologists' beliefs and stuff exactly line up with mine. But maybe sometimes the policy that gets put into place is not based off their beliefs as much as it is what they have to do to be able to do their job, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's all on the scientists, and I think it's just on the, like you're saying, it's the politicians that don't use any of that research that these biologists are giving them to trying to shape any of these policies that they're coming up with.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine those guys are in the right headspace. I mean, that's why they got into wildlife biology. They didn't get into it to come up with ways to kill off all the moose for some reason. They got into it to try and help out, right?
Well, there's definitely.
But don't you feel?
Go ahead.
Don't you feel, Ty, like this whole caribou moose thing was fucking shifty as fuck, and it was like, oh hey, we're not gonna really fucking tell anybody, we're just gonna pop this out in the rags, and yeah, best of luck to everybody. Like, it wasn't a fucking discussion to be had.
Yeah, no, this is a different situation than that cow calf situation. I personally think. I honestly think what happened is the provincial government got their pee-pee spanked by the Supreme Court of Canada. And then they're instead of making good on the issues that are in place with resource extraction, they instead did a 180 like a dirty car salesman, handed off some money and traded away some hunting rights. And I think I think when this stuff got put in place, like last month, we had some policy go through the regulations about harmonizing all of the seasons throughout the North Country of BC, like in 7A, 7B, and Region 6. And I think now that this moose and caribou regulation came out after that, with the public opinion kind of hearing section being 14 days and nobody announced it. And I think the only reason they did it is because some of those stakeholders leaked what was going on. I think it's plain to see that this is sort of a long drawn out deliberate plan. Like, hey, we'll get this through and we'll be able to do whatever the hell we want up there. So
it's pretty dark. Yeah.
To answer your question, I do think it's complete bullshit and shady as fuck. But
I have a way with words. I am like a wordsmith.
It's an efficiency there.
So Wasey, how do you feel about government? Fuck them. Okay.
Okay. We can't go down this road. I'm gonna piss a lot of people off.
Mike's the same though, so we'll have to save that for the next episode of Mike Jones and Waste Dogs anarchists tinfoil hat club or something.
Do you remember back in the day there was a freestyle motocross rider? His name was Mad Mike Jones.
Yeah, Mike Jones.
I remember.
Mad Mike Jones. Yeah. So we got Mad Mike Jones on the mic.
Yeah, I had a pretty interesting childhood. There's been a lot of Mike Joneses.
I just always think the rapper. I don't know if you noticed. I put the same song on everything that I post that has your name in it. I can't even help myself.
Yes, I did pick up on that. Thank you.
All right. That's an hour. We got it. I think everybody has to take kids to school and stuff like that, right?
Oh, that thing. Oh, yeah. That thing.
Adulting.
I wanted to say just congratulations on this whole thing. I think you guys are doing a really excellent job. I think you're only just past your first year of this podcast. And I think that you guys are, this is an important conversation that you guys are continuing to have on here, and the people that you're attracting with it are a testament to that. You guys are doing a good job, and I think it's an important part of the Canadian hunting culture, really, that you guys are doing. And I think,
thanks a lot, Mike. But I think, when Tyler kind of brainstormed this thing up, I think he kind of realized that there was missing conversations that needed to be happening in Canada. There's a lot of US podcasts. Like, you could throw a dart at 100 podcasts in the States, but we had no representation of actual Canadian events that was happening up here. There was a few Canadian podcasts kicking around, but they were more just, talking hunting, which is what we do too. But I think it's good. Yeah. And I think it's a great space that we're kind of trying to create, aside from my shit talking. But
yeah, but it's a good, you guys sound like normal hunter guys. Like, you're just normal dudes that you wouldn't mind sharing a blind with for a morning and talking shit. Like, that's what I think is attracting that kind of listenership. And like you say, the genuine part about it is you just get on people that you want to talk to, and that's who those guys want to hear from. So I think that's really what makes it work. It doesn't sound, it's not like it's, all planned out and overly produced, and you don't have a list of questions in front of you where, after, I hate those interviews where, you come up with this big, long answer to a question that, you're trying to put some thought into, and then the guy just goes, yeah, and then just moves on to the next one. There's there's no back and forth, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It just sounds authentic, and it's just a conversation. And I think that's the formula that works out for these things.
And I said to Tyler, people can sniff out unauthentic people fucking real easy.
What word did you just say?
He's got a way with words.
Okay. This guy's a wordsmith.
I'm telling you, man, I'm fucking setting the world on fire this morning. I'm just like Spook Span here.
Like, what?
Oh, fuck. You don't know Spook Span is, or what?
Dude, I'm like 15 years old.
Spook Span. Okay, I'm going to send you some, when we get off, I'm going to send you some Spook Span shit, okay?
Do I need to edit this out? Is this?
No, man. Spook Span is a big, he had a hunting TV show for a lot of years in the States, man.
Okay.
And he used to rap at the beginning of his intros and his hunting shows. And he'd be like, I'm setting the world on fire. Okay,
are you just getting everybody on to a show that you did? It's actually just Wayne Dog under an alias in Montana.
His fucking name is Spook Span. I'm not even kidding you.
That sounds more than mildly racist, to be honest.
Yeah, right? Jeez.
No, but that's his name, man.
If he's black, we're getting canceled.
I think his show was even called Spook Nation.
What about okay, this guy is out of touch. Was this in 93?
Dude, I hope so.
I'll talk.
Okay, just before we sign off, you know what made me, and Mike, you'll laugh at this too a little bit. You know what made me laugh harder than anything? We were on a hunt in Alberta, Mike, and we're chasing mule deer, and like we had walked like 1,000,000 kilometers, and Wasey's like bleeding from his ears from the wind, like not even exaggerating, right? And we're talking about people that are funny, right? And he goes, you know what? You asked my buddy Cole O'Neill what his favorite TV show is. We call up Cole O'Neill. We're like, hey, Cole O'Neill, what's your favorite TV show? He's like, where in the world is Colorado Buck? Just like instantly.
Okay, hold on.
And Colorado Buck, hang on. Colorado Buck looks like Tiger King.
Oh my God.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to play this Spook Nation anthem here.
Okay.
Wow.
That's our cue. All right.
This is good. So now when everybody listens to this, they were about to Google Mike Jones Knife and Tool, but now they're going Spook Nation.
How do people find you, Mike? At Spook Nation.
At Spook Nation. I need a dime. Just Google I need a dime.
Okay.
Just everything's Mike Jones Knife and Tool, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all the things.
Deadly.
And there's a website, MikeJonesKnifeandTool.com.
There you go. Thanks for thanks for the support on this giveaway. I really appreciate it. You didn't have to do that. I was actually trying to buy one, and you're like, no, I'll just send you one. I'm like, all right, cool.
Oh yeah, I got tons of stuff kicking around. Just hand them out. Yeah,
send them.
Thanks a lot.
Send some more to us. We don't mind.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike, for coming on. We appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me. We finally made it happen.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at Wilderness Locals. If you want to support the podcast, please check out the gear, articles, and whatever else we're up to on the website at www.wildernesslocals.net.